Since releasing my analog console style Reaper template, I've added some new features that make it even better. There's a new dynamic mud tamer plugin for vocals, a brand new master bus compressor. It now uses 12 buses instead of 8, and then there's a few bug fixes, and it also should support high DPI monitors for those of you using Retina displays. So let me show you what's changed. If you're brand new to my analog console style Reaper template for live mixing, I'll link the full walkthrough video below. In this video, I'm only covering what's new in version 1.5. Let me show you the new master bus compressor. The way this works is you want to adjust the threshold control down until you are getting between 4 to 6 dB of gain reduction. It can be a little sensitive, just find that sweet spot where it stays between the 4 and 6. Then bring your output up until you start to see the limit light turning on with peaks. It just gives a nice glue to the whole mix and gets your output LUFS to a nice healthy place. If for some reason you don't want to use my master bus compressor and want to stick with what I had in the previous version of the template, or use a compressor of your own, you can shift click on the plugin and that will bypass it. Then go into the magic sauce container and you can see I have the limiter number 6 that was in the previous version. Just enable that and you can use the old master bus compressor. With my plugin, again, I'm trying to bring the controls out onto the mixer control panel so that you can see what's going on and easily reach for the knobs without having to open and close plugins. Okay, now onto my favorite plugin. Here's what the new dynamic mud tamer does on vocals.
His mighty hand has parted raging seas. For those he loves, he has redeemed. Worthy he has been, worthy he will be, crowned in endless praise, all earth and heaven sing. Holy is the Lord.
The Mud Tamer plugin will be inside the post effects container on vocal channels. So when you open up version 1.5 of the template, it will already be inserted on your vocals. The container lets you add additional plugins here to your channel while still keeping this mixer layout clean. This plugin works dynamically, meaning it's not just an EQ that's always on, it only cuts frequencies that it needs to when they build up too much. Because of that, you're not going to have to use as much low cut on your vocal EQ as you would normally, which means you can use your EQ bands to shape the vocal rather than fix the vocal. There are settings in here if you open up the plugin, but I would say don't change these. I use these to tune the plugin to where it's at. It's not really meant to be adjusted. This plugin should just sit in the background and do its magic on your vocals. I've also created a new plugin that I'm calling an arbitrary loudness measurement. The way this is used, and I'll go over this in a lot more detail in the BEDA mix process balance video, but the way this is used is to compare the loudness of your vocals with all the other instruments. These two channels have been set up to receive signals from the appropriate buses, but they don't send audio anywhere. So fader position or being armed, it doesn't really matter. They are purely for us to take this measurement and do a comparison between the overall perceived loudness of our instruments and the overall perceived loudness of our vocals. For more information about how to use this, go watch the balance video. It's actually a really cool way to get your vocals balanced in your mix. Now, one of the biggest requests was more buses, especially if you're mixing large worship teams or orchestras. So version 1.5 now supports up to 12 buses. And with this update, I've also changed the way that you can modify the names of the buses here in the routing plugin. All you have to do now is go to the Options menu, click on Show Reaper Resource Path, and go into the Effects folder and the Ballast Media folder, and you'll see a file named editbusnames.txt. Open that, and these are your bus names that show up in the plugin. The first 12 lines of this text file will be used as your 12 bus names. Edit these names and save the file, and then you will need to reopen the Reaper project, and your bus names in the routing plugin will now be updated. Then you can just change the name of the actual bus channels like you would on any other channel in Reaper by double-clicking it and typing in your name. If you don't need to use all 12 buses, one of you actually pointed this out to me, you can go into the track manager, so View, Track Manager, and next to the bus you don't need, untick the dot here under MCP for the bus you don't want showing up in your mixer. And that will hide the bus in the mixer view. It's still there, it's just being hidden. I wouldn't recommend deleting any buses because of how complicated the routing works in my template. If you delete a bus, it would be hard to get it back without just starting over with a fresh template. If you need another bus, you can't just duplicate a bus the way that you can just duplicate channels if you need another channel. The Bus Compressor also has a new sidechain high-pass filter, so kick drums and low end won't cause your buses to start pumping when you're driving those compressors. If you open up the plugin, when it's selected to the bus mode, the Bus Compressor sidechain high-pass filter here will let you set the frequency. So by default it's 90 Hz, and you can adjust it as you need. This just removes low frequencies from the detector of the compressor, so that low end won't activate the compressor and cause pumping. Since I have this interface open, kind of peeling back the covers of my channel strip plugin, most of these controls are what you see in the interface. If I adjust this input trim, it's adjusting the trim knob. But there are a couple hidden controls in here that don't make it out to the user interface in the mixer. Mainly there are Q controls for the low mid and high mid EQ bands. Really quick, if I run pink noise through the plugin and cut at 200 Hz, this is the default Q or bandwidth that will get affected. I have the default set to be pretty musical, so it's wide, but you can adjust the Q here if you need to and narrow it down. Or you could broaden it more if you want to. Finally, I've made the plugin scalable. This should make the template more compatible with Retina displays on Mac. The problem was that my plugins weren't scaling up for high DPI displays like Retina, which made the plugin super small on a Retina display. So that should be fixed now. I'm not going to claim that it's going to look perfect on those Macs, but it should be better and more usable for people who are using Macs. Updating to this new version is really simple. If you've already installed my original 8-bus version, delete the old Ballast Media Effects folder and copy in the new 1.5 version of the folder, and then you should be able to open up the 12-bus projects. You can still use the original 8-bus projects that you've already created. Changing out that Ballast Media folder won't break anything in the original 8-bus template if you want to keep using something that you've been working on. If you've already purchased the template, this update is free. I actually anticipate that all future updates to this template will be free once you've purchased it. Just use the Google Drive download link that you should have received and grab the latest version. If you don't own it yet, you'll now receive the newest version zip file immediately after purchase, along with access to future updates through a link that is included in that zip file. Thanks to everyone who's been sending feedback. Many of these improvements came directly from your suggestions, and I'll keep updating the template as it evolves.